Welcome to Your Family Dog, a podcast dedicated to helping families love living with dogs. Here are your hosts, Julie Fudge Smith and Colleen Pelar.
Welcome to Your Family Dog. I'm Julie Fudge Smith and I'm here with Colleen Pelar. Today, we're going to talk about simple games that kids can play with dogs. And a lot of them are in Colleen's book, Puppy Training for Kids, which, by the way, is not just for puppies. It's for dogs as well. And one of the best things about this book is it makes training so available to kids, really sets them up for success in working with their dog and learning to build a really strong relationship. One of the most important parts of that, though, are the rules by which kids need to play with their dogs in order to make it successful for both of them. So, Colleen, you want to tell us what those rules are?
Sure. I think there are 3 rules, so not too many. There are 3 rules for games with kids and dogs. The first rule is be calm. So arousal is an issue. Wild games are not a good idea. There should not be any screeching, yelling, or chasing. If the dog gets too revved up and starts jumping, then it's time to stop for a while. That's rule number 1. Be calm. Rule number 2, be gentle. Don't push, pull, or hit the dog. Roughhousing is not allowed. And similarly, if the dog starts nipping or being rough, call a timeout. So be gentle. And the third rule is be fair. A game is only fun when everyone wants to play. That's so obvious, and yet we forget it sometimes. Either the child or the dog should be allowed to end a game at any time. No game should involve an activity that makes a player sad or uncomfortable. For example, most dogs do not enjoy playing dress up. So the 3 rules are be calm, be gentle, be fair. So as a parent, I have to say I played a lot of games with my kids that were not fun for me. They were not. I hate Monopoly. But I made a deliberate choice to do that with my child. But I would not say that I was actually playing, Like, is that a game? Does anyone want to play Monopoly? No. But you clearly do want to play Monopoly, so I will play with you. That is a choice I made as an adult to interact with a child. But when we look at some of the games that kids and dogs play, we can have some situations that occur like that. And it is not fair to expect either a child or a dog, but in most cases it's a dog, to put up with a game that only the other one likes. So a while back, many years ago, I had a client whose 3-year-old wanted to play dentist with her dog. And the 3-year-old was a boy, the her referred to the mom. And the mother was sort of frustrated that the dog was not into the game. And the boy would grab the dog's muzzle and push up his lips to look at the dog's teeth. And the dog very, very tolerantly would just sort of pull his head away. I mean, this dog was a saint, but he wasn't letting the 3-year-old examine his teeth. And the mom's like, well, he just wants to be the dentist. That's not a good kid and dog game. No.
Sometimes I have to ask the parent, well, would you want your child to come up to you just randomly and start shoving your gums up, your lips up, and looking at your teeth? I'm not sure you'd be enjoying it a whole lot either.
Yeah, I think using those kinds of examples is a really effective thing. Like, I've used this with babies a lot, where like when you're holding your own baby and the baby sticks their fingers in your mouth or up your nose or whatever, you tolerate it and you pull their fingers away, but you're like, okay, well, that happened. And they whack you in your eye and all sorts of stuff. But you're holding someone else's baby and that starts happening, your tolerance is a little bit less. And by the second time, you're kind of grabbing at their hand. And by the third time, you're like, okay, who wants a turn to hold now?
Yes.
Hand off. It's just, we have different kinds of feelings about this.
Yes.
And it's not fun for any of us. That's not fun. It's something that we're just doing. So is it a normal behavior from the baby perspective? Yes. Is it enjoyable? Not really. And that's okay. A lot of things that children do that are perfectly normal things for children their age to do are not going to be well received by dogs. And a lot of things that dogs do that are perfectly normal things for dogs to do are not going to be well received by children. So if we have an adult who can set up interactions that put everyone in their best light and that they're calm and gentle and fair interactions, then we get the magic that, we all dream of kids and dogs being this lovely relationship. It can be, but it requires an adult who knows what they're doing. So a couple of the games that I really like to play, they're all really simple. I mean, so simple. But one of the simplest games that I like with little kids is to give them Cheerios and tell them to make a trail through the house. So I call it Hansel and Gretel trails. And they just make a little trail of Cheerios through the house. And then they come back to me. And then what do? We tell the dog, go eat the Cheerios. And they have such a blast because they just wind it around the coffee table and then back into the kitchen. And the dog just runs around.
Game.
It's so easy, and it's low arousal, and the child is actually moved away from the dog at the time of this, but the dog is hunting. It's a fun little easy game. So have you ever done anything like that, Julie?
I've done something somewhat similar. What I like to do with dogs is teach them to find a toy or a Kong or something like that. And what I usually do is I show them the toy. I say, oh, where is it? And I stick it behind my legs. Mm-hmm. And I say, oh, find it. And they find it, and I make a big deal about the fact that they looked behind me and found the toy. And then maybe we'll go, I'll put them in a sit stay or have somebody there with them, and then I'll say, oh, I'm going to hide it. And I walk around and put it behind the counter, on the other side of the kitchen island, and come find it. And as the dog gets good at hunting down these toys, as you start out easy, make it more successful. Then what I love to do is do this with kids, and I do this in classrooms with kids as well. I will have the dog facing the doorway or something and have the kids hide a Kong in the classroom and the dog has to find it. Or have the kid hide the toy at home, go into another room and hide the toy, and then come back and tell your dog to go get it. And that's a really fun game. And kids can get very creative, and the dogs can get really good at it. Our dogs could find a toy pretty much on any floor of the house. As they got good at it, so they didn't start out that way, but you can start out very simple, and it can be something that can be really easy, even for a small, 3 or 4 year old. Go put the ball over there and have the dog go get it. And so I like that game because it can also be a really great game for kids who are older and who really want to work with their dog and teach them this special trick. Then they can teach the dog, and it's great on a rainy day because it requires some mental intelligence for the kids as well as the dogs. It's a terrific game.
That's one of my favorites. I once did it in a library at a school where I thought the librarian might be a little concerned because we were hiding Kongs between books. But it was so fun to watch the dog just go, I'll find it. But with this game, we also have to talk about what the rules are.
Yes.
So the rules are that the toy isn't in a drawer. Mm-hmm. And it isn't up higher than the dog is allowed to get, so we don't want to be encouraging the dog to stand on its hind legs and reach something off the top shelf or some of the behaviors we don't want. But kids love this game. It's a really fun game, and it's so easy to teach. And it usually starts just with the piece you described, which is showing the toy and then hiding it behind your legs, which most dogs go, I know where it is. And the kids go, you're not even hiding it. I'm like, yes, I am. He can't see it. They're like, he sees it. Yes, he does. Let's let him find it. And rewarding for that little part at the beginning, then it's so much easier to build up to that.
Absolutely. It sounds very simple, but it's really important that the dog be immediately successful because otherwise then the game doesn't seem fair.
Yeah. And if it's not fair, then it's not fun.
That's right.
We just don't want to play. If the game is too hard, we don't want to play. So if the dog says, you take my toy and I never find it, well, who wants to play? And different dogs will have different abilities with this.
Yes.
Years ago, I had a dog who was an excellent finder. She could just find things wherever I hid them. And my next dog was a decent finder. Not nearly at the level. So he definitely had some moments where he was hunting for things that were really close to him, but he just wasn't finding them because that was not his gift. So I changed the criteria for him. His got hidden more easily than hers had been. And that's totally fine. We still had fun, but I had to recalibrate my hiding spots because he just was not quite, I don't know, I guess he just wasn't quite as clever at thinking of places I could hide things as she did.
Our two dogs, Bingley was at the point where I couldn't figure out where to hide it, that he couldn't find it. but Buckley was like, okay, Buck, it's in the front hall.
Yeah.
It's just, if you just walk, sweetheart, you're going to find it. Really, I'm serious. So, that wasn't Buck's long suit either. But kibble hunts were one of his. That's the other thing. It's something similar to what you said with the Cheerios trail. I will also allow kids to do a kibble hunt where they'll take a handful of kibble, show it to the dog, and then throw it onto the patio or in the front hall, and the dog can do that. And that's something similar to what you do. It's just kind of quick and easy. But I like the trail of Cheerios much better than the kibble.
The trail
hunt.
is fun. I mean, just because it gives them a few minutes of doing something too. I mean, the kids are actively laying a trail, and I'm keeping the dog from going after that. And then they're like, ready, okay. So that it can be a really fun one. Another really simple, so fun one is which hand has the treat.
Oh yes.
Or the shell game. Get 3 cups and put the treat under one, and then let the dog figure it out. Oh.
We used to
Magic.
do that with our horses as well, with peppermints. One of our horses adored peppermints. And so we would do which hand is the peppermint in? Mm-hmm. And so that was really fun. And that I find is a little bit better. You got to be careful with puppies who might be real grabby, because they don't know enough about bite inhibition. And the other thing I found in doing that is I use a lesser valuable treat.
Yes.
So that the dog is not, oh my gosh, you have chicken in your hand, let me add it. No. This is a great trick or game to play with a lesser valued treat like a milk bone, which doesn't have the same kind of drive to a dog as a piece of chicken or a piece of liver may have. So that's one thing to keep in mind when I do that one is how young is the child I'm working with, and how grabby is the dog, and how valuable is the treat. Those are 3 things to keep in mind when I'm doing that game.
Absolutely. And I use Cheerios a lot for kid and dog games because I can give millions of them without really filling up the dog. And they're so low value.
Yes.
They're like, dogs will eat them. Almost all dogs will eat them, but they're not that great. Training, I feel differently. We want to have really good treats for training, but for just like putting Cheerios all over your house, we really don't need it to be chicken or anything super high value.
Right.
So the points about, nippiness and grabbiness for some of the games, like the one where you had where the children run and hide, I played that game too, and I have done it with children where I give them a bowl. And so then, when you're calling the dog, you've put a treat in the bowl, and then the bowl is being preferred to the dog instead of the treat in your hand. Right. Because we are encouraging the dog to run from room to room. Sometimes the dog gets a little more excited, and then we've just sort of eliminated that how do we take the treat from your hand issue. So I just kind of give each kid some Cheerios, and then you're gonna put one in the bowl, and the dog's gonna get a Cheerio or 3, who cares? But then the dog's gonna run off, and you'll refill your bowl for the next round, as opposed to delivering from your hand. So that's an option for that kind of thing.
Right. Well, in that game, actually, I think what we talked about was hiding the Kong, and I think what you're talking about here is the game where the kid actually hides.
Yes.
And I
jumped ahead, didn't I?
You did jump ahead, but that's okay because it was a nice teaser, Colleen. Thank you.
It was a teaser.
It was a teaser.
Whoops.
To what I call the Come Find Me game. And this is
Come Find Me game.
The great way to teach your dog come and to make it a game so that come is really fun. So what I'll do is I'll give all the kids some treats, and you're right, the bowl is a great idea. Yeah. So then I have the dog in the kitchen with me, and the kids scatter around the house, hiding behind a chair or in the bathroom or wherever. And one kid starts by saying, Buster, come find me. Buster, come find me. And he keeps saying that until the dog gets to him. And by the time the dog gets to him, then he says, oh, good dog. And he gives him his treat, either from his hand or from the bowl. And that's the cue for the next child to go, Buster, come find me. Buster, come find me. And Buster runs off, and when he finds child number 2, same thing. Oh, good dog, Buster, which is a cue for either the first child to have run to a new spot or the third child to then do it. And you can do multiple rounds of this, and each time you hide in a different place. And I found it's a great activity for rainy days. So your dog needs some exercise. We're running from room to room to room. And 2, it's mental exercise for the dogs. I know she had been in the bathroom, and she's not there now. Where could she be?
I love that. The changing of locations is the part that makes it so fun, both for the dog and for the kids.
Absolutely.
And in my Living with Kids and Dogs book, I actually call that game Rainy Day Come, because it's such a good, we're all cooped up in the house, what are we going to do so I don't lose my mind game. But it's a fun activity for that because it has the dog moving around, but the element of where did the child go now? Because I knew he was in the bathroom, but he's not. Oh, he's in the dining room. Yay! That reinforces the come even more powerfully because there's that whole element of excitement upon finding you. It's a lovely reinforcement for come.
Right, I figured it out and I get a treat.
Yeah.
And the other thing I like about it, too, is while the dog gets excited running to person, the people stay calm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really key. And then the dog actually has a down moment because I get to the person, I found him, I get a treat, and then they take a breath and they start again. So it may be activity level, the dog's running, but it's punctuated by periods or moments of being calm. And that's one of the best ways to prevent your dog from getting over aroused is to regulate the play. So that you may have busy times, but then you have that time when you come down for a minute. And that's real key to preventing arousal from spilling over into something that we don't want, like maybe aggression.
Absolutely, because arousal is such an important thing we need to be watching anytime we're having play with dogs, just because dogs get too revved up and silly, just jumping up on somebody, a scratch could hurt somebody. So we don't want any times where we've put anyone in. Well, actually, every parent has had that moment when they're listening to their children play and they go, okay, it's getting a little wild in there. You better calm down a little. And then they don't. And then a minute later, somebody's crying.
Right. They've fallen off the chair or the bunk bed or whatever. And,
And you knew it. You could hear it. It was coming. It was the arousal. You could hear this was headed that way.
Yes.
So other fun games. I love to use stuff that's in the house to just create some sort of activity. So one really simple activity that I've done with a bunch of dogs is we lay a broomstick across two kitchen chairs. And then we put a towel over it. So now we have a curtain hanging between two chairs. Can you get your dog to crawl under that? Will your dog go through this barrier? And kids are like, well, I don't know. Well, that's where our magic Cheerios come in. What if I put a little trail of Cheerios all the way across the floor from the one side to the other side? And, so dogs will go. The towel typically falls off the broom as the dog goes through. Okay. But that kind of thing. Or can I put the broomstick on the very low rungs of the chair and have the dog jump over? Yeah. Right. How fun. How easy. It's a simple little household obstacle. Or can we make a tunnel out of a great big box? The kids can crawl through it. The dogs can crawl through it. Or even the sofa forts. You make the fort and invite the dog in. Now, invite the dog in. We do not drag the dog in. So again, we would love to have you as a part of this game, but you're not, we're not in any way trapping anyone anywhere.
Right.
Another fun thing is soda, the 2-liter soda bottles. Mm-hmm. We've used those a couple of different ways. We've used them as bases where we have games where you would run to a base and something would happen, or make a line of them, and we try to teach the dog to weave through them. Nowhere near as fancy as the weave poles that you've seen in agility. Nice and slow, not fast and amazing like those border collies do. But my favorite one of all is what we call puppy bowling, which is you just take a few of the 2-liter bottles. You don't have to have the full set of however many you have for bowling. Is it 10?
It is 10.
10. But several. You put several in the way, and you have one child at one end of the hall, and the other child is at the other end of the hall with the dog, or the parent is at the other end of the hall with the dog, and you call the dog and see how many you can get him to knock over and while coming.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Puppy bowling. How many can you knock over? Oh, you got 3. And with any game where we could possibly be scoring, for example, puppy bowling, I like to have a team score because I don't want it to be that I did better than you. And, then we get into the whole frustration where the game stops being fun for one of the kids. So we like to say, we're going to do puppy bowling until we can get our score to, 12. And at 12, that's when we all get to go have our snack or whatever. But so you're 7 and my 5. Yay, we made it to 12. Not, yay, you got more than me. Huh.
Oh, I like that. I like that team score.
I do. I'm a big one for team scores. I definitely think team scores are good. So that's a real simple household kind of thing. Hula hoops, not everyone has a hula hoop, but hula hoops are really fun for, teaching a dog to go through a hula hoop.
I've used hula hoops in classes and with kids, and I like hula hoops. And you can even do things like, can you teach the dog to sit inside the hula hoop?
Mm-hmm.
So
can we do where you're stuck inside the hula hoop and the dog is far away? Can you get the dog to come to you? Can you get the dog to sit when you can't get out of the hula hoop? And so we can do it both ways, where the dog is in the hoop or you're in the hoop. So the hoop is just like everything else. Like, what could I do with this object?
Right, and you can also do that with boxes, like low boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Can you get the dog to jump over the box? Can you get the dog to step in the box? Can you get the dog to, maybe grab the box and pull it away? There's lots of different things you can do with boxes as well. And one of the things I love to do with dogs is cereal boxes. And it's the same kind of thing you could do with the 2-liter bottles, is you can line them up and have them knock them over. And then you can put a treat in it and allow them to, try and find the treat in the box. So there's lots of things you can do with boxes that you could also do with 2-liter bottles, or a combination thereof.
Yeah, or toilet paper rolls, or paper towel rolls. And with the toilet paper roll, you can even put a few treats in there, or Cheerios, and then just bend the ends in. And now we have this little, rattler, and the dog has to rip it apart to get it in. And kids love that kind of stuff.
Yes,
and
they do.
Something you were going to throw away anyway, so why not? Another training game that I like to do with older kids who have pretty good skills. So, there's definitely, when we're talking about kids, there are definitely ranges here on their ability level to communicate with the dog. But with older kids who are pretty good with the basic skills, I like to do a game I call Beat the Clock, which is you give the dog a cue, just one of the ones he's really good at. So in most cases, it's sit, down, touch. These are like the 3 that we're kind of doing. So you tell the dog sit, and the dog sits, and then you click and you throw a treat. So the dog turns around to get the treat, and then you rush off 5 feet away. And the dog eats the treat, turns around, and you've moved. And he's like, oh, wow. Comes over toward you, wagging, life is good. And you say, down. And the dog lies down. You click, throw a treat, and move away. But if the dog doesn't sit or down, you sort of freeze for a moment. And then you give the cue again. So what happens is we get this, how fast can you respond? How fast can our game go? Ooh, there's your reward. On we go. There's your reward. On we go. So we get pretty quick responses to some of just the basic household cues that dogs like to do. This is one where we have to watch for arousal, which is why it's one for older kids where the dog knows it. If the dog doesn't know the skill well, this is not a good thing until it's a really strong skill. But most family dogs have pretty good sits, pretty good downs, and the ones I teach usually have a pretty good touch.
Yeah, and that's a great game. And the other thing is I find it's really handy to have a dog who can sit fast. Because there are times when I say to my dog, sit, I need to have him sit right away. Yeah. So if we have made it really rewarding to sit fast, we're going to sit fast. I will do that with my owners and tell them, okay, I want you to practice getting a fastest sit. Ask your dog to sit 3 times in a row. And each time, count how long it takes between you saying the word and the dog's bottom hits the ground. And so you do that 3 or 4 times and say that it ranges from 1 to 2 seconds. Well, from now on, the only sits that you're going to reward are the sits that are 1 second or less in time, at least with food. All the other ones you can say good dog, but no food rewards for anything less than, or anything over a second. And that really does help to speed up sits. And that could be a game. If you have kids and they each have a dog, you could do a little competition there. It's kind of fun.
No competition, because then we get the bad feelings.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Then we have someone cry. It ends with someone crying.
Well, maybe what you could do is we could say, okay, well, then you could do it something like this. Let's see if you can get both dogs to sit in less than a second. So that each of the dogs, so that your combined time is less than a second. Something like that. So, but you're right. But there's a way to modify this. So
there are. Then other things which are more training related, there are 4 tricks that most kids 7 and older can teach calm dogs. So if your dog is relatively calm and comfortable with your kids, the 4 tricks that are relatively easy for kids to teach are crawl, spin, roll over, and take a bow. And crawl and spin are the two easy ones.
Yes.
Roll over and take a bow require a little bit more practice and skill. But those, just teaching your child to train any specific behavior can be a lovely relationship building thing. And it's a fun experience for both of them. The child enjoys it, the dog enjoys it, and we can set them up for success. But just like everything else, this is with adult supervision, that you're helping and you're supporting and you're encouraging, making sure this is all going well.
Now, are the instructions for those 4 tricks in your puppy training for kids book?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, all 4 of those are in there.
And that book can be found at Amazon?
Amazon.
Can you get it as an ebook and a paperback?
Yes, it is available. There is a Kindle version.
Oh, right, great.
So it's available, and we will have links to that in the show notes, too.
All right. Well, I have it as a paperback, and I have given it as gifts to several children who have trained with me, and it is universally received with a great deal of enthusiasm, and these kids turn out to be great trainers. So I have very personal experience with it, knowing that it is a terrific book, and it's very kid-friendly as well as very dog-friendly. You wrote a terrific book, Colleen. I recommend it often.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, Colleen. Now, we've talked about the importance of keeping arousal levels low so that arousal doesn't get out of hand and somebody gets hurt by nipping or jumping. But I think that there might be a time when it's important to end the play as well. What do you think?
One of the rules for any kind of activity with kids is always leave them wanting more. So if your child has a friend come over, it's always better to have the friend leave when they're both still having a great time. And they're like, why do we have to end? Rather than, 45 minutes too long, and I don't even like you. So same with the kids and dogs. If we're interrupting a game when everyone's still having fun and moving on to the next activity, that's much better than having a moment where one or the other is just sort of done. Just like, are we still doing this?
Right.
So that can be a really important piece of this. And so, as always, an intelligent adult who really knows how to set everyone up for success makes the difference. So it's really a matter of managing your environment, setting expectations, teaching kids the rules, be calm, be gentle, be fair, and watching to make sure those rules are really being enforced so that we can really have these lovely relationships that we all want for kids and dogs, because really there's nothing better than a kid and a dog being really close friends. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And the other thing I would add in there, too, is that if you have any concerns about your dog and your child and their relationship, find yourself a positive reinforcement trainer who can give you some tips on how to build that relationship between your child and your dog, and perhaps supervise and show you how to teach your kids some of these games so that they can build the relationship, they can have something to do with their dog, and everybody's set up for success. So if you have any concerns about how to actually do this, find yourself a positive reinforcement trainer and have them come over, maybe even for just one session, but it would well be worth the money to do that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because if someone can help create some activities that are fun for your dog and your child, then those are go-tos. You know, we don't always have to do something different. We just have to do something fun. So if this is still fun for both of you day after day, yay.
Yes.
It's a win-win.
And in fact, it works, by the way. I was working with an elderly person who didn't have a dementia, but was beginning to lose some of his faculties. And so one of the things that I had to come up with what are activities that he can do with his dog that is fun for the dog and fun for him and didn't require that he move around a lot. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the things that you were doing here were things that I could have done with him and his dog. We did some other things. But so this doesn't work just with kids. It can work with anybody who has a special need, perhaps, an elderly person with a beginning of dementia, or somebody who might be
anybody.
Right.
I mean, because I'll be honest, I've done Hansel and Gretel trails within the last week just because they're fun. My dog likes it. So,
All right. Well, those are great suggestions. We hope that this is going to help you love living with dogs as much as we do. We hope that you have some fun with your dog this week and fun with your dogs and kids. And that if you have any comments, suggestions, questions, we would love to hear from you. Our website is Your Positive Connection. No, that's my website. Our website is yourfamilydogpodcast.com. And you can also call us at, Colleen, I believe you have the number?
614-349-1661.
Thanks, and we will see you next week. Until then, go play with your dog.
Thanks for listening to Your Family Dog. Got questions? Interesting ideas? Colleen and Julie would love to hear them. Call 614-349-1661 or visit www.yourfamilydogpodcast.com to share your thoughts.
Hi, this is Colleen. I just wanted to add a quick postscript to our discussion. So when we were talking about kids competing, and I was like, no, we don't want them to compete. Here's why. I don't care so much if kids compete over a game of Monopoly or checkers, because they don't feel like, oh, the Monopoly board likes you more than me. The checkerboard likes you more than me. But I don't want kids to compete over things like attention from grandma, attention from the family dog, who is loved most, who's the favorite. That kind of stuff can deteriorate relationships because realistically, one child is going to communicate with the dog better than another. And so probably the dog will respond better to one child than another. So if we get into a situation where we're saying who can get the dog to sit 5 times fastest, well, that sets up an uneven situation that could be a negative influence in your family life. So that's why I'm not especially competitive in activities that involve kids and dogs. I really like to have it be a team sport so that we're not competing against each other for the attention of the dog, but that we're all working together to enjoy the dog. I just needed to add that. So have a great day. Bye.